Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those who are new, welcome. My name is Monica, and today I am going through my January reading. I read 43 books in the month of January, and I'm actually fairly proud of myself. I had 9 5-stars. I started out with a 5-star, and I ended with a 5-star, which is honestly like perfect for me. And I read 1 physical book. I've read 4 ebooks and the rest 38 audiobooks. But you know me, I'm an audiobook girly, so who knew? But I've also been committing more towards historical romances. I read 10 historical romances, 7 paranormal romances, 19 contemporaries, 3 fantasies, and 4 romantic suspenses. I had a really good mix of different books. One of my first 5 stars that I had was The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson. She's a new to me author. This is a shifter's contemporary romance, and it's Omegaverse. I know what Omegaverse is. I'm not unaware of what Omegaverse is, but this is my first Omegaverse romance. So going into this, I knew what to expect, but I'd never read one before. And I absolutely loved it. I loved the writing. I loved the pacing. I loved the character development. I loved the fact that the alphas were considered so volatile that they had to keep it a secret in order to work in the medical industry, in the medical field. And so that was the problem with Noah. And then you had Mac, who decided to fake date him so he could keep his job after he was outed. It was very interesting. It was a very interesting book and a very interesting plot. You did have the nodding thing in there. So if you're ever curious about how nodding works, this is actually a very good foray into Omegaverse if you ever wanted to try it. It is a little long, but again, I did not mind the length. I felt like it was really well done. I would absolutely read more by Lana Ferguson. I was surprised. Well, I shouldn't say surprised. This is traditionally published. The spice was good for traditionally published. That's what I should say, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. But I would absolutely read Lana Ferguson again. So I might have to go back and read The Nanny. Another one that really was interesting to me, and this one kind of blew me away, was in a very interesting way, was Dante by Sadie Kincaid. So this is book 1 in her Chicago Ruthless series. So I've been on a bit of a mafia kick lately, and this is the first time she's also a new to me author. Like, I read 10 new to me authors in the month of January, and the thing with Dante is that this was a surprise baby, which I'm not surprised for mafia. Kidnapping, again, not surprised for mafia, but it had a found family feel to it, which was surprising for mafia. And that Dante did not have the normal toxic masculinity that I generally find in mafia romances. He didn't. I was like, huh, oh my gosh. And I loved how our heroine, Kat, really fought him. And it got his engine running, if you know what I mean. So that was fun. And they both had some dramatic trigger warning for forceful rape in the past. And that comes up and that plays into the conflict, and what happened to her comes up, and it's part of the plot. So be aware of that going in. But I highly recommend this if you're looking for a good mafia romance without the overt toxic masculinity, because our hero doesn't have that. And speaking of another new to me author, that was a huge surprise, and this is a huge surprise. I don't like white shoes. I generally don't like white shoes, right? I'm like, girl, make a freaking choice, okay? I read Twilight of Embers by Tessa Hale, another new to me author. I gave it 4 stars, and it's almost more like 4.5 stars. And I still am thinking about it, so I should probably just up it to 4.5 stars at this point, because I'm still thinking about it, and I'm absolutely picking up the next book. Okay, this and I did, and it has a cliffhanger, and I hate cliffhangers, right? But I knew it was going to have a cliffhanger. I was warned about it. It's Dragon Shifters, so that's what sold me on it. And I was going to give Why Choose one more go. And I figured Tessa Hale would be a good one. And I was not wrong. This one, each guy had their own dynamic. Each guy had their own personal role in the story for this girl. And it made sense. And it wasn't just like this whole big thing where it didn't make sense. Like, I honestly have not read Pucking Around. I don't really want to read Pucking Around because it doesn't make sense to me. Why would you want... Okay, so Tori from Novel Life has read it. She said it was 4.5. Her and I generally tend to feel the same way about Why Choose. So if she's saying it's good, I might pick it up. If you want me to pick it up and vlog it, I will. Let me know down below. But for this one, I honestly had to give it to this one because, I mean, the narrators, you had heavy hitters. You had Joe Arden, you had Jason Clark, you had Connor Crayus, you had Teddy Hamilton, and Jacob Morgan. They were fantastic. But the fact is that the plot made sense. There is not enough female dragons. And the female dragons who were there, they were being kidnapped to be breeded. And so all these men who were like brothers, they were tasked to keep her safe, but they had their own personalities, they had their own differences and their own roles, and it was so interesting. And I'm absolutely picking up the next book. I want to know what happens next. So Tessa Hale caught me on this book. The next one that I did read, and I gave 5 stars, it was a reread. I didn't realize it was a reread till I reread it. It was The Gift by Julie Garwood. I read it like 14 years ago, I think. It was a long time ago. And I did talk about this in a previous video. And this one, man, listen, Sarah is Sarah. Sarah is so unconscious of her surroundings and her life. She literally walked down a London street in the middle of the night thinking he was perfectly safe when Nathan, her husband, who she married when she was 4 years old because of an arranged marriage, because of King George, who was considered or mentally ill. And it's a feuding family situation. This marriage was supposed to end the feuding families. He kept taking out all the men who were gonna hurt her, and she's like, oh no, I'm perfectly safe, when in fact she was not. She set fire to his ship. She's so klutzy. She doesn't even realize she's klutzy. It's such a thing, and it was so fun. This is the type of book that you can't take serious, and it was such a breath of fresh air. It was a historical road trip type thing. He was a pirate, but you don't really see him pirating. He's I think a marquess, I think, if I remember correctly, or an earl or something. So he's part of the aristocracy, and yeah. So he's got a lot going for him, and he's scary, so people are scared of him. One of my favorite parts about this story is her relationship with her aunt, and that fact that she did go to save her aunt. She's very loud about it, but I love that she saved her aunt, and I loved her with her aunt, and I loved their dynamic. I loved the fact that she kept calling the crew of her husband's ship the staff. That was really, really funny. And her parasols. And her parasols were like deadly because she just kept leaving them on places. And the crew kept making the sign of the cross and treating her like she was evil incarnate. I had a great time. It was a great reread. Another one I gave 5 stars is The House of Sky and Breath. This is book 2 in the Crescent City series. And the only thing I can really say about this is that Bryce and Hunt are horny AF. They're really horny in this story. Listen, my thing with the first book, House of Sky, Earth and Blood, I think that's what it was, The House of Earth and Blood. That one had a lot of backstory. It was so much backstory that it just slowed down the pacing so much for me that I was bored. This one didn't have the backstory. The pacing was just good. I enjoyed it. And so I gave it 5 stars. Sarah J. Maas, she puts things in that are important. Everything from book 1 and book 2 there was reasons for it, and we found out why in book 3, which I will get to in a minute because I did read book 3. They were all necessary and they closed out in book 3. But once Bryce and Hunt started in with the romance, it got really hot and steamy in House of Sky and Breath. They really went at it. One of the biggest things that I really loved about the House of Sky and Breath was Rune and Lydia, and how their relationship started to develop in this book. And I became very fully invested in their relationship. And to me, I still love Bryce and Hunt very much, but Rune and Lydia, I just felt very compelled by their story. And I loved Rune and Bryce's brother and sister relationship as well. I thought that was just fantastic. But 3 books that just stand out to me this year, and they're probably going to be on my top reads of 2024. The first one is Through the Glen by Samantha Young. This is book 3 in her Highland series. This one is a romantic suspense, small town. Sarah is a thriller writer. She was also a maid at the Ardnox Estates, and that's how she met Theo. Theo is the second son of a Viscount, but he is also a producer and a writer. He writes crime shows and movies, I think. He is looking to it, and she wanted him to adapt her stories. Her crime series just blew up and went viral, and she wanted him to do it. Initially, he turned her down, but then he realized who she was and he wanted to work with her. And there was a lot of forced proximity. But the thing that really made me fall in love with the story was their character growth together and apart. They both had a lot of different things they had to work through. He had a lot of trauma from his father and what his father did to him and his mother. She had a lot of trauma of stuff that happened to her, a lot of the abuse that she went through. And then you had the suspense plot, which was really interesting. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars. It's my favorite in the series. This one is just fantastic. I loved it. Samantha Young will have a hard time beating this one. And the one that was on my list that was going to be like my favorite of January, and it hadn't been beaten until January 31st, was Loving Romeo by Laura Pavlovitz. This book is book 1 in Magnolia Falls. This is Romeo and Demi's story. It is hate to love, small town fighter. She didn't know why he hated her so much. She's rich girl, poor boy, wrong side of the tracks. But the thing is that she pushed him to tell her why, and he did. And I love that he was so possessive and protective of her, and that she believed him. There was no third act breakup. I loved that they protected each other. They supported each other. One of the biggest things about this book was the found family was done so perfectly. I loved it. The pacing, the character development, the spice was done beautifully. The training montages was so fun to read. The audiobook was impeccably done. Connor Crais and Samantha Brentmore like knocked it out of the park. This was just such a gorgeous story. It was a great opening to a new series. I mean, Laura Pavlov set herself up because she's gonna have a hard time beating this book. Not gonna lie. I'm really excited to see what she's gonna do next with the rest of the crew in this found family. Because, I mean, when Romeo didn't want anything to do with Demi, his friends, the guys were like, no, you need to have her there with us. They were pushing him to be with her, to let her in, and it was awesome. The one on January 31st that beat Loving Romeo was House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. And it put me into a bit of a slump. I know, January, it's already a slump. That's not good. But here's the thing. It was like Sarah J. Maas. It picked up right where House of Sky and Breath ended, on that massive cliffhanger. And it's like she hit the accelerator and it kept going and going and going and going. And there were some little lulls, but I felt like as the reader it was necessary because there were some times where I needed a breath just to be able to take in everything that I was learning. I'm not gonna give spoilers, but oh my gosh, that ending, Jessica, what Jessica did, and what Hunt did for Bryce, and what Bryce saw. I mean, what she saw when she went, yes, it was so good. It was so well done. The pacing was perfect, and what we got from what happened with the Asteri, it made a lot of sense. And or if you read The Court of Silver Flames, you know what I'm talking about. And you need to read A Court of Silver Flames before you read this series. You really do. I am not kidding. And that was my cat jumping up because now she wants a treat. She wants her treaties. So I'm gonna end my my wrap up here. Let me know what your favorite book that you read down below. If you read any of these, I would love to hear about it. And if you made this far in this video and you want to let me know that you've been here, please leave me a Crescent Moon, as my favorite book in January is House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. And until next time, my friends, happy reading. Bye.